Decades of relevance do not happen by chance. They are built and led by people like Dr. Abhay Firodia. As chairman of Force Motors Limited, he has guided one of India's most respected automotive enterprises for decades, creating iconic vehicles such as the Tempo, Matador, Traveller and Trax. With advanced manufacturing, strong research and development, and a workforce of over 10,000, Force Motors continues to power India's mobility journey. His leadership has strengthened global business partnerships, notably through his role with the Indo-German Chamber of Commerce. Beyond industry, he remains deeply committed to education and social initiatives, carrying forward a strong ethos of public service. Honored with the Jain Ratna Award, Germany's Cross of the Order of Merit, the Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year Award, and multiple honorary doctorates, his journey reflects scale, discipline, and enduring impact. When vision becomes momentum, it becomes a force. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Abhay Firodia.
Mr. Firodia, we are grateful and we are listening. Please.
Shri Naveen Khandelwal, Shri Himanshu Rai, eminent dignitaries in the audience, friends. I'm not going to talk about artificial intelligence or drones or molecular biology or nanoparticles being the future of India. I think there are many experts who are better qualified and can speak on these subjects much better. I want to look back as much as look forward. And I would say that today, as the previous speakers have said, we stand at a point in India's history which is a huge inflection point. India is poised to have explosive growth. And when this happens, we will be reverting back to normal. That's my point. Many of us, or most of us, or all of us, have heard about dal dal pe, sone ki chidiya, and so on. How true is it? And why was it so? And what can we do today to bear that in mind as we go forward? That is the point, in my opinion. Till the year 1750, which is 275 years before today, the highest per capita income, not national income, in the world was a contest, a close contest between India and China. These are figures which are valid and they are published and they are available. If you want to see the last 2 millennia of global economic power, there are charts available. If you are interested, please write me a note. I will arrange to have it sent to you. In 1750, the average European had a per capita income which was less than half of India's. Every farmer, every weaver, every mithai wala in India had a better life than an average European. Why did this change? But before that, why did this happen? How was India over thousands of years the most prosperous country, with China being a very close, non-aggressive competitor? Why did this happen? Was there a reason? I think we need to understand that reason. It is important to know that India developed an economic model, a social model, a political model, a marketing model, which was unique, which was adapted thousands of years ago to our requirement. I say this with a lot of confidence. I am currently building 6 new museums. I just completed, over the last 10 years, one of the world's largest museums on philosophy, on Jain philosophy in particular. And I'm now building new museums, one of which is called Samruddhi, prosperity, and looks back on thousands of years of the evolution of India's prosperity. Why did it occur? How did it occur? What did it do? And I have had the privilege of closely interacting with a large number of eminent scholars from all over. And there is a team of several scholars, most of them are PhDs, working on collecting the content of this museum. So when I say this, please don't think I am saying something which I have imagined. There is a lot of data backup to it. So what happened in ancient times? Let us go back 4,000 years. The Harappan civilization, as we call it, was not limited to Harappa. Yes, an Englishman found the first evidence of it in the Sindh desert. But this was the riverine civilization of India, which stretched from the Sindhu Sagar, which we now call Arabian Sea, which was where the river Sindhu and the river Saraswati emptied, all the way back to the Himalayas, and then all the way to the Ganga Sagar, where the Ganga and the Brahmaputra empty into the Ganga Sagar, which we now call the Bay of Bengal. This whole area was a great civilizational evolution location. All other rivers of India, Narmada, Godavari, Krishna, were part of this great riverine civilization of India. In Harappan civilization was the mature Bronze Age, which means 5,000 to 6,000 years before today. You find evidence of lost wax process for casting brass. Most of you have seen the statue of the dancing girl with one hand on the hip and the other hand wearing bangles, standing in a very attractive pose. That is cast 5,000 years ago or so by the lost wax process. Metallurgy, foundry, ability to convert concepts into productive methods were evolved. How and why did this happen? If you go back to the soul of India, the thought of India, the inspiration of India, the ethic of India, you have to start with the Shraman tradition. There is a feeling today that Veda is Praman. The Veda was composed, first Veda, Rig Veda, 4,200 years ago only. So anybody who talks that 10,000 saal purana mandir hai is talking through his hat. No mandir existed in India before 2000 years. No. So what was there at that time? Uniconic philosophical thinking. India has several traditions. Please forgive me for digressing a little bit from economy, which is what you have come to hear, but I want to lay a foundation. Every religion, every thought process, every spiritual philosophy has three components. There is rituals, home karna, puja karna, namaskar karna. These are rituals, they're not religion. The second component is Puran. There was a great man who could lift a mountain on his finger and with a single arrow could make Ganga come out wherever he wanted. These are ways of extolling the virtues of great people. Nobody should doubt that Bhagwan Ram or Bhagwan Shri Krishna or Bhagwan Buddha or Bhagwan Mahavir were amazingly great people. They have left an impact on half of humanity for thousands of years. But their stories are not religion. That is Puran. How did Puranas evolve? They evolved only 2000 years ago. So the sequence is Veda 4200 years ago, Upanishads some 3000 years ago, and Puran thereafter for another 1000 years. So all these stories that we hear, they are part of folklore. In the evening, by 6:37, people had eaten during the daytime. What to do? You can't go to bed at 6:30 in the evening. So went to the mandir. And there was the kirtankar who would tell you, even today when you go to hear a kirtan, he builds into it Rahul Gandhi and Narendra Modi and all these stories come in. But that is not religion. They are trying to make it interesting for you. So Puranas are like that. So where is religion? Some 7-8 years ago, I had the opportunity to meet the Dalai Lama in Bombay. A friend of mine had invited him, and we had a long chat with him. So some young girl asked him, "Your Holiness, what is religion?" As his answer is absolutely priceless. He said, religion is the process of enhancing faith in values, not God, not religion, in values. Ultimately, values is the religion. So at that time, uniconic, that means without a god to worship, without a temple, the spiritual inspiration was purely value-based. And what were those values? History has been unkind to that period because history, unfortunately, the one we read, is written by people who have a vested interest in hiding it. The leftist historians, the Islamic historians have tried to erase our past by telling us kuch nahi tha. India had a great civilization even 6,000 years ago. And it continued for thousands of years and it evolved into a great economy. You would say, what is the relationship between religion and economy? The Shraman religion, as enunciated by Rishabdev some 5,000-6,000 years ago, he was the king of Ayodhya 65 generations before Dashrath. You can imagine the historicity. What he had said was nothing but advice for the common man and the businessman. 6 things he pointed out. First was Asi, which means Astra. That's Prakrit, Asi. Defend yourself. Be ready to go on the offensive. don't be a fool, don't get taken for granted. The second was masi, ink, but it meant communication. Be connected, talk, be collaborative in society. Third was kasi, krishi, which means produce. At that time, fundamental source of income was agriculture, not just growing wheat and rice, but animal husbandry, growing cows, bullocks, harvesting the milk, creating whatever products come out of that. So, kasi. The next one is cataclysmically important. He said Vanijya. That means you produce a surplus and you trade that surplus. And through that trade you become prosperous. Then came Kala. Kala is not tabla and basuri only. Yes, those are kalas. Painting is kala and dancing is kala. Fundamentally, kala means skill and productive skill. And the last was vidya, which is knowledge. There is a great deal of evidence available when you look for it of mathematics, of chemistry, of metallurgy, available in our ancient tradition. So all of this formed the basis for a prosperous society. Why did we become prosperous if just knowledge was there? It is not just based on knowledge. This is another misnomer which comes today. भारत को विश्व गुरु बनना है. अरे भाई, गुरु मत बनो, विश्व में सक्सेसफुल बनो, अच्छे बनो. गुरु का आदर है, पर हर कोई बोलेगा कि हमें विश्व गुरु बनना है, तो इज नॉट रीजनेबल. What you want to do is be successful. You need a social basis for being successful. What the Islamic invaders to India 1,000 years ago did was they tried to destroy our culture, not our economy, our culture. They destroyed our temples, they destroyed our systems, they forced women to have a gungat or go into a niqab or whatever it is, and they imposed their way on it, on India. Why India succumbed? You must remember that the Islamic invaders came to Afghanistan in the year 750. They could take Delhi in the year 1200. 450 years of fantastic defense. But India was a country which believed in deterrence and defense. The invader did not believe in deterrence and defense or victory. He believed in destruction. He destroyed you. So 15 times Prithviraj Chauhan won, he let Ghori go. 16th time Ghori won, he killed Prithviraj Chauhan. That is the way the progress happened. So they destroyed our culture. The colonials who came did not destroy our culture as much as they destroyed our economy. In 1750, India had the highest per capita income. For hundreds of years before that, 2,000 years ago even, there is solid evidence of trade of India with Rome. A Roman Senate has noted that what a pity, our women are so fond of Indian clothes that all our gold is flowing into India. India had trade with Indonesia, with China, huge trade. So India was a trading nation, a successful nation. And I began to tell you why this was so. This was so for two reasons. India, in the period around Buddha and Mahavir, became very, very pacified. And it focused on trade and production and developed an ecosystem for business that was very productive and very good. This peace enabled the growth. It had two effects. On the one hand, it created a society which was amazing. On the other hand, it created a society which had lost its will to fight and to defend. So we succumbed on the one hand. On the other hand, our economic system continued. What was that economic system? What was Gandhi saying? People laugh at Gandhi के वो क्या विलेज इकोनॉमी की बात करते थे और चरखा और ये नॉनसेंस है, हमको तो कंप्यूटर चाहिए और ड्रोन चाहिए और एआई चाहिए, ये चाहिए हमको, सब चाहिए. But Gandhi was not talking about the charkha as a means of production. He was talking of charkha as a means of internalizing the productivity in a unit which was focused on productivity. We talk of jatis in India and we are taught by the British, an idiotic thing, that a jati was divisive because they wanted to divide us. Even today there are forces who say, मैं यादव हूँ, तुम फलाना हो, वो है, ये मैं मराठा हूँ. This is wrong. Jati is nothing but trade. If you are a goldsmith, your jati is sonar. If you are a farmer, your jati is what the farmer's jati is. He is a Vaishya. Any trader, anybody who does anything which is for gain or profit is a Vaishya. Whether he is selling food grain or gold or jewelry or weapons or whatever. These jatis each had a panchayat. What was that panchayat? So there were villages, and in one village there will be 15 jatis. There are woodworkers and metal workers and kumars and sutars and what have you. They had a panchayat. That panchayat was the foundation of Indian productive society. They determined, it was similar to people who want to understand things in the context of Western words. They were guilds. That means the people of a particular trade worked together. They decided the behavior of that guild with the rest of the society. They had the power to tell their member that you shall not do this and you will do this. This was not coercion. All decisions were by Sarvamat, consensus. And India functioned smoothly in the economic sphere by one jati collaborating with another jati in a village. Each village had its own panchayat where they elected 5 important people whom everybody respected. They decided what is to be done, and they worked in terms of riti and niti. Riti is what is right to be done and what we do, and niti is the basis of that. From the Raja to the rank, everybody was controlled by riti and niti. And people worked within the ecosystem of village economy where there were people who were doing spinning and they had their panchayat. And there were people who were doing weaving, and there were people who were transporting, and there were people who were harvesting. These jatis collaborated. I don't know how many of you have been to Ludhiana. But if you go to Ludhiana even today, how is the bicycle made? The bicycle capital of India. Somebody is making the spindle of the pedal. Makes 10,000 spindles of the pedal, just that. 4 operations on simple machines he has built. Somebody else makes the rest of the parts. Somebody assembles it. Somebody makes the bearing race of the steering. These parts go just in time to the assembler of the bicycle. He may not assemble it, he may just simply pack it into a kit and ship it. But this is a highly productive, very low cost, very decentralized, small scale and micro and family industry oriented activity, which is a huge big activity. All these big companies like Hind Cycle set up by Birlas in Bombay and Sen Raleigh set up by the English company in Calcutta and TI cycles in the south, they all failed, could not compete with Ludhiana. So this method of production was productive and fundamentally it depended on collaboration. And why was there collaboration? And this is beautifully explained by Dr. Ambedkar. It would be good to know what it is. Ambedkar said that there are two thought processes in the world. One thought process is the Abrahamic thought process, Western thought process. And that process says that everything grows out of a conflict. You have to fight for your right. You have to assert yourself. There is a conflict. आपको छीनना है, आपको तोड़ के लेना है. He gives an example that the Westerner believes that when you put a seed in the ground, the seed has to fight with the ground to get nutrients and water and to split the ground to come out. So हर स्टेज पे झगड़ा है. ऊपर आने के बाद में it has to grab air and grab the sun. So life and existence is struggle and fight. And there is the Indian view where it says that you plant a seed in the ground and that seed automatically gets water from Mother Earth and nutrients and it splits to let it come out. The sun is there. This is a collaborative model of life and existence, and this is the friction-oriented model. What we have begun to accept in modern times is this friction-oriented model. India always was successful because it was a collaborative model. If you had international trade of the volume that they speak of 2000 years ago, you think that trade could have taken place without proper financial systems? If you exported a shipload of goods to Rome or Africa or Indonesia, you never got paid? How did you get paid? And there was a system of payment. There were bankers. All of us are familiar with Hawala, which happens today. What is Hawala? That somebody pays some money to a crook in Dubai and that foreign money is converted to Indian money and his agent gives you Indian money here. That is Hawala. This system is bad only because it has been made illegal. That money is without having paid tax. Therefore, it's bad money, it's black money. But it's money ultimately. Such a system based on mutual confidence between financiers in one town and another town, financiers in one port city and another port city 2,000 miles away, existed. So trade took place. These systems were suppressed. When the British came, they did not defeat our industry on merits. They destroyed our industry by regulation, by restriction. You will not produce this. Latest example from 75 or 80 years ago is Seth Walchand Hirachand. He wanted to set up Scindia Steamship Navigation Company to compete with the P&O Orient Lines. He did not get permission from Government of India. He fought. He fought at every level, no permission. Then he went to Privy Council. The chairman of the Privy Council was Lord, I don't know, Inchcape or something was his name, who was the owner of the P&O Orient Line. Yet, he had to give permission. So it was so difficult in India to do something. The socialists adopted this and further distorted our economic system. So we had this wonderful, collaborative, trusting system which the Islamic invaders did not destroy. They allowed the money to be created in India, the wealth to be generated in India, but they took it away but kept it here. The British, on the other hand, destroyed our system, took the money away and beggared us. From 1750 to 1947 or 50 is the period in which India went from 25% or 23% of the share of global economy to 3%. 20% loss in 2 centuries. 10% of global economy lost in 100 years. This is what beggared India. The good fortune is our spirit lives. Our ability lives. Our culture lives. If we want to go forward, and we have once in a few centuries opportunity in the next half a century to reassert ourselves, not only must we assimilate knowledge on artificial intelligence and microbiology or what the dickens you have to recreate a society which is trusting in Indian values, a society which collaboratively works together. All elements, politicians, bureaucrats, traders, scientists have to work together. Today in India, the British disease still lives, where the elected representative, servant of the people, thinks of himself as the ruler, hamara Raj hai. And the bureaucrat controls everything. हम बाबू है, हम नहीं होने देंगे, हमको पूछे बगैर नहीं करना, हमारा हफ्ता दिए बगैर कुछ नहीं हो सकता है. Pay my toll, my tithe. It's my entitlement. Can be nothing more criminal than this. It is the trade which has to stand up. And by trade, I just don't mean buying and selling. I mean creating, innovating, market, product, processes, finances, organization, distribution, all of this is important. I'm so delighted to see the Indore crowd today. My connection with Indore is 50 years old. I have a factory here for the last 40 years. When we were forced to come here, we didn't want to come. But the government would not give us expansion unless we went to a no-industry district. We chose Dhar, the closest to Maharashtra. Indore was a forlorn place, no industry. The textile industry had died. The culture wasn't one of modern industry. I see today the energy, the enthusiasm, the variety of activities which are happening. Why this has happened? This has happened because Indore has modernized. And I am happy to say that in comparison to many other comparable cities in India, Indore has not westernized. They have not taken the Western culture and discarded the Indian culture. This is very important. We must modernize, we must not westernize. If we modernize and we use our original civilizational instinct to work together and keep focused on business and trade, keep peace. All this period of great Indian growth was peaceful period. Have you heard of any real wars in India before the year 2000 or before the year 1000? Yes, there were great emperors like Harshvardhan and Pulakeshi and who have you, and yes, they did have a fight. But what was that fight about? All these were either about I want control of this port, or I want control of this income, or I want control of this temple because it has money. It had nothing to do with philosophy, religion, tradition. It was not a matter of dispute. In the last few thousand years, or let me say 1,000 years, things have changed, and India became a disputed territory with terrible degradation. See the movie Dhurandhar, and you will see what kind of society the Abrahamic societies are. How violent, how utterly remorseless. It is opposed because of this, not because it is showing violence. You see violence in so many movies, but it is a social attitude that comes out. India has suffered from this for 1,000 years. This is the time, and this is the time for the youth. India, as the learned professor just said, has the demographic dividend. Yes, we have young people. More than half of our population, I think, is below 25 or something like that. I'm not good at statistics. But that means you have the opportunity over the next 25, 30, 40, 50 years to reassert yourself. Can we do it simply by understanding what the West says about us? Can we do it simply by looking at management processes? You cannot do it simply by that. You have to reassert your societal values of collaboration, cohesion, cooperation, and a moral backbone that we do the good thing. India always was like that. It has not been explained to you to be so. You are told sati tha, किसी का husband मर गया तो उसको आग में धकेल देते थे. This is nonsense. This is what these fellows invented in order to oppose the propaganda against exploitation of India that there was in the British press and British Parliament. We had no such, yes, there were sati, but that's nothing. India was not a backward, India was not a, what would you say, uneducated, crude society. If we accept this, we are not starting from scratch. We are starting from up there, from a high moral and social ground. We want to reassert ourselves, to go forward in the world with the best of today's technology, like we did 2,000 years ago with the then existing technology, by doing social engineering that gave us at that time the best benefits. And I think the Indore Management Association, by these interactions with various people, is encouraging the young entrepreneur to look forward. But they should not only look forward at technology. They must look at the softer angle, the value system of India. I know of entrepreneurs who are big entrepreneurs. When he walks on the shop floor, workers come and touch his feet. Why? In an age of trade unions, where trade unions were mollycoddled and made to oppose and destruct big companies, people do it because they recognize goodness. That is what the Indore Management Association needs to drill into the youngsters. Earn the respect of your collaborators, your co-workers, and your business partners. If you do that, you will have removed the biggest obstacle to growth. Technology is there for the asking. There are hundreds of experts. Today, India is fortunate that it is teaching the world. You go to the USA, there won't be a single university or college without half a dozen Indian teachers. There won't be a hospital without Indian doctors. There won't be an electronic or a software company without a large number of Indians. What does this mean? This means it is there in our DNA. We have to use it to enthuse the youngers, not to blindly follow the West, but to create our own presence, our own future, our own prosperity for our entire society. We have to take everybody with us. India has always been accepting. All other societies are not accepting. They may tolerate you. If you go to a Western country and you are not a Christian, they will tolerate you. If you come to India and you are a Jew, you are accepted. हमारे में से ही एक हो, ठीक है, आपकी जाति अलग है. This is the difference between India and the rest of the world. We must keep that difference. We must overcome the Western bias. If we do that, in an Indian way. ये जो आपने लिखा है स्वदेशी, स्वाभाविक और स्वनिर्मित, इट्स ऑलराइट, ये तो है ही, पर ये करने का रास्ता सिर्फ टेक्नोलॉजी या फिनेंशियल इंजीनियरिंग या स्टार्टअप्स नहीं है. यस, दे आर ऑप्शंस फॉर यू, पर ये करने का रास्ता फॉर अ सिटी लाइक इंदौर which has a great culture of collaboration, cooperation, इज्जत करने का लोगों की. मैं जब भी इंदौर आता हूँ तो मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि हमारे यहाँ के वर्कर्स जो है उनके आँखों में नज़र की शर्म है. वो समझते हैं कि हम अगर काम कर रहे हैं तो हमारे ऊपर कोई ना कोई हमारी मदद कर रहा है. ये हमारे मूल्यों का एक एक्सप्रेशन है. ऐसे बहुत एक्सप्रेशंस है. तो लेट मी विश यू द बेस्ट. I can go on talking for 2 more hours, but before the organizers ask me to stop, I better stop. Thank you very much for listening to me. I hope the subject I spoke of did not bore you. Thank you.